Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Anna and I'm so glad that you're here today. And today I'm talking about the Tombow Celebrations palette. And this is kind of a fun, unexpected palette for me. If you have seen my review on the Bohemian palette, which I will leave linked in the description box below or in the cards for you to see if you're interested, you will see that I had a bit of an issue with the fact that there was very little contrast among the palette as a whole. And so this is the first time that I did not have any inspiration whatsoever in terms of creating something with that palette from the ground up that I enjoyed, because there just wasn't enough contrast. Everything was in that same color family. And there's a little bit of that in this Celebration palette for sure. You can see that they're all pretty bright colors. Definitely what you would think of if you think celebration, happy and woohoo and bright and fun. So you do get those colors, but somehow there's still more contrast in this than in the Bohemian palette. If you look, you can see that there are some very light pastel shades, and there's also these mid-tones where you get those pops of color. And then you also have this one yellow gold color, which really helps ground these colors. It's still a fun color. There's enough darkness in this shade that helps ground the rest of the colors. And you'll see that in the little silly illustration I made. I just thought it would be a cute little card, because looking at these cards, looking at these colors, I literally thought happy, happy, happy. And so that's literally what I wrote. And I actually thought it was really fun. So I used those really light pastel colors, and then I used that yellow gold to create a drop shadow, drew a bunch of balloons and confetti, and I felt like I got enough contrast from this to make it something that I could use as a palette. Now that being said, it's kind of one note, but overall it is a fun palette. And so we'll jump into the swatches and the demo of how I made this little illustration for a card, so that you can decide whether or not this is the palette for you and how you might use it in your own art journey. So be sure to stick around for a while, like this video and subscribe, and I'll see you in the swatches and demo portion. Woohoo! So let's go ahead and get into the Celebration palette. Just for your information, this is a 10 marker palette with no blender included, which means you are receiving 10 individual unique colors, which is really great. The first color is Scarlet in number 925, and this is an orange. It is a warm orange, so there is red in there, but it is very much an orange color and not red when you see it in real life. Next we have Hot Pink number 743, and this is a nice cool toned pink. It provides a nice mid-tone shade for the palette to ground it as a whole, and it works really well. Next we have this pastel light blue in the color Sky Blue number 451, and it is exactly what you would expect. It's a very light, pretty blue. Next we have Yellow Gold in the number 026, and this is probably the darkest shade in the palette, and it is definitely needed and plays its part very well in this palette, because it's enough depth in it that it grounds the rest of the palette and provides just enough contrast. Next we have another pastel tone in Flesh number 850, and it is a peachy pink pastel tone that works really well for blending out your other pinks. Next we have number 723 Pink, just straight pink, and it is exactly what you would expect when you hear pink. Moving on to the next page, we have Warm Red and number 885, and this is exactly the way it sounds. It's a very warm red. It's almost orange, but it definitely has much more red in it than Scarlet does. It's a bright red, and it's kind of like your watermelon red that you would expect in the summer. Next we have Sap Green in number 245, and this is the only green in the palette, so it does provide some nice contrast. It is on the darker, more mid-tone side, so it does provide a nice contrast as well. Next we have our Bright Blue, Process Blue in number 452, and this is kind of like almost like a bit of a highlighter color. It's got a little bit more depth than a highlighter does, but it's that kind of tone in terms of brightness. The last color we have is Process Yellow, and it is a very bright, true yellow tone in the number 055, and it works really well in this palette just to add a lot of like that happy aspect. So here we have the quick look at the palette as a whole. I do find that it is very bright and tends to be a bit one note. However, as I said in my intro, that yellow gold, that sap green, and that hot pink do help ground this palette a bit more and add a bit more depth than some of the other palettes that are also one note, like the Bohemian palette. So this is a really fun palette. I think that if you like bright colors and if you want to make something like birthday cards, this is absolutely a great palette for that, because it has all of those bright, fun, happy colors that you would want in something celebratory. So in my demo, I'm just using those lighter tones that tend to be difficult to see on their own, and I wanted to see if I could get contrast within this palette. So that's why I picked those lighter tones. And then I used my other markers, the darker and mid-tones, to create this fun balloon theme all around it. And I find that I was able to get good contrast by using that yellow gold later on as a shadow, and the overall effect was really nice. So I'll let you guys watch this process come together, and then I'll meet you on the other side. Just jumping in with a quick reminder that using something like a black fine liner can really help bump up the contrast within your palette and make your palette colors go even further. So I hope that you have enjoyed this look at the Celebration palette from Tombow. Overall, I'm very pleased with this palette. I do think that it's a lot of fun and the quality is absolutely there. The only things that I would caution you to is that it is a bit on the one note side. So make sure that these are colors that you're going to be using often. And secondly, some of these colors are repeats from other palettes, which Tombow tends to do, so that's why I don't always mention it. So just take yourself some time to compare the colors in your collection to those in the palette to see if you have any repeats. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Let me know if you are going to pick up this palette yourself or what you think about it. Subscribe and like this video and stay for a while, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!